So President Trump sat down with NBC News' Kristen Welker over the weekend, and
lucky him.
I don't know how many times he's going to have to answer this question. Do you know what the question was? It's always Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security being cut. I mean, how many times has he addressed this? The only ones talking about it are the left. The only ones who are threatening your Social Security or your Medicare, Medicaid are the Democrats. They're the only ones I ever hear bring this up because President Trump has said multiple times, I'm not cutting Social Security. We're not cutting Medicare and Medicaid. We're not doing any of that. We're cutting fraud and waste, but who doesn't want that?
Well, it's the best part of Medicare and Medicaid is the fraud and the waste. Yeah. Everyone loves that. Yeah. No, it's funny. I mean, there was a time where conservatives made arguments that these are unsustainable programs and need to be reformed.
That time is long gone.
It's
gone.
Dead.
Yes.
It is dead as a doornail. There's nobody who's coming up now and saying really much of anything about this. Trump has been really clear since the beginning, going back all the way to 2016.
Yeah.
Where he said, look, I'm not going to go after these programs at all. And that's where we are. There are zero parties looking to cut this right now. Zero.
Yeah, right.
There's not one.
Right.
No one wants to do it.
But here's the question and the answer.
What happens if it comes to your desk, has the tax cuts, but also cuts to Medicaid? Would you veto that?
Well, we're not doing that.
Would you veto that?
I would if they were cutting it, but they're not cutting it. They're looking at fraud, waste, and abuse, and nobody minds that. If illegal immigrants are in the mix, if people that aren't supposed to be there, people that are non-citizens are in the mix, nobody minds that. Waste, fraud, and abuse. But we're not cutting Medicaid, we're not cutting Medicare, and we're not cutting Social Security.
Yeah, this is not
over and over.
I guess the same thing he's been saying. I said 2016. It's really 2015.
Yeah,
where he's been talking about this. I remember him being on the stage of one of those debates early on, where there was still kind of strains in the Republican Party of wanting to reform these programs, and he was kind of seen as an outlier. He was like, "No, I'm not doing it." And when everyone else is like, "Well, of course we'll make these. We'll cut these programs," or they never use the word "cut." They would just say reform. Which essentially, they would be talking about things. Paul Ryan did this back in the early Paul Ryan days, where it was like, hey, we're going to change maybe the retirement age.
Right.
To reflect reality.
Extend the retirement from 65 to 68 or 70 or whatever it was.
And they were the most
they don't even do that now.
Proposals, right? It was like, if you're born today, then you will have no change whatsoever. But in 70 years from now, we're going to extend. It's like all this stupid stuff, and it's like they weren't even hardcore reforms back then. But Trump was very outspoken about opposing even that.
The last time I remember actual reform being discussed by Republicans was under George W. Bush when he was talking about privatizing it. And we blew that completely.
The way,
it would have been so great.
Completely.
Oh, it would have been so great.
I was just going over something. This is before vacation, was just going over this because there was some, I don't know if it was an anniversary or something of when he first proposed that Social Security reform, which was, again, genteel.
Yeah.
It was like you could take 10% of your, I think it was 10% of the money that was going into Social Security, and you could put it in an account to invest it in the market.
But you didn't have to.
You didn't have to.
Remember that?
Yep.
If you don't want to do this, you don't have to do it.
Yep.
But if you want to privatize all or some of it, you can.
And it was not available to people who
that would have been great.
Were really close to retirement. So people were like, a few years after that was the 2008 collapse. People were like, oh, what would have happened? Nothing. Because the way the bill was written, you couldn't have been in the program for the 2008 collapse. In fact, they went back and looked at it every single year. It was available every single year. Even if you're retiring in 2020, every single year it was available. It would have worked out for the people who would have joined it. And of course, it only gets better and better as time goes on.
Right.
But we didn't do that.
We didn't do it
because people are they're going to cut Social Security.
They had a fit about it back then. And they convinced everybody. They scared the crap out of them. They fear-mongered like they always do, and scared the crap out of elderly people. Like you're gonna lose it. You're not gonna lose it. Are you listening to what's being said? No.
Again, I am not a fan of these programs. I don't like them at all. I think the idea that FDR came along with this BS, well, it's actually like your own savings account thing that they did to get the government more money.
Why don't you let me do that?
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be your own responsibility.
Yeah, right.
You can join a program like this if you want. Of course, people don't always choose that, and they certainly wouldn't choose the type of program that they get offered from the government, which is terrible, horrible returns. And by the way, all the money you put in there is spent immediately.
Right.
It's not saved. There's no saving. There's no returns because the money has been spent on people who are retired now. In a totally insolvent program that everyone knows is a disaster. But let's all pretend like we should protect it until the end of time. Because let's pretend to, let's make it act, let's all seem like it's a good idea to protect a program that we all know is failing in front of our eyes. But let's do it because polls like it. People like when they get money, when they get checks in the mail. And again, that's not to say that there's no program for elderly people who are in the situations that the program was originally designed for. People who had their spouse die and they're sitting there long after they're able to work and need assistance. That is something totally different than the program that we have today.
Yeah, it is.
Totally different.
Yeah, it is.
It's a long-term paid retirement plan with money that we don't have.
And in 2032 or 2033, when this thing goes belly up, we're going to wish we'd done something long before that time to save it.
Yeah.
But,
and what they will, of course, just do is say that we don't want to reform it, and they're going to just add to our taxes. We'll just
that's what they'll have to do.
That's what we'll wind up doing. Is
our
children will wind up bailing it out or something at some point. But we'll just continue to print money and inflate our way out of the problem.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
So again, there's no good options here, and I think President Trump has I think recognized the political realities of the situation.
Yeah, he has.
Which is that no one likes the things that we're saying currently. which I get. I mean,
it's true.
You have to.
Yeah.
Look, the reason why the Democrats say this crap all the time is because it's effective. When people get scared, they're going to lose their programs.
Right.
They vote for the other guy.
Every time.
Or in the most recent election, the other lady. That's how it works. And so I understand why this happens.
Yeah.
It is a real problem, though, when we talk about, look, Doge, 97,000 Elon Musks could not touch the problem that we're talking about when it comes to these programs.
Yeah.
These programs are what is completely upending our budget. And, I don't care how much fraud, waste, and abuse that you go after, you're never going to be able to get to the core of our financial problems if you don't touch these programs. That being said, what he is offering to do here is not touching these programs. He's saying, look, we're not going to give Social Security benefits to illegal aliens.
Or dead people.
Or people who haven't been born for another 100 years. Those types of things. It seems rational.
It does. But it's not to the left for some reason. But they also discussed, of course, tariffs and China.
You're not dropping the tariffs against China to get them to the negotiating table. Those tariffs are staying on.
Why would I do that?
Would you lower them?
At some point, I'm going to lower them because otherwise you could never do business with them.
Yeah.
And they want to do business very much. Look, their economy is really doing badly. Their economy is collapsing.
Okay.
That's true. I mean, a lot of people, we focused on the harms that have happened to the United States since all this stuff started, but it's really bad for China. I mean, we are their market.
Yeah.
So it is really hurting them a lot.
Yeah. And they're going to have to make a deal, probably sooner than we do. Although they hold some cards. They're not like Volodymyr Zelensky, who have no cards. I mean, they do have the medication card. And they have the rare earth minerals card, and those are pretty impressive cards to hold at this particular time.
They also have the card that if they want, they can just let millions of their own people die, which is an interesting card to hold. And they play
from time to time
frequently. Yeah. They'll just kind of play it throughout history. Hey, wait, but if you do this, 20 million of your people will die. So that's kind of been their answer historically. So we'll see if that changes at all. Because, I mean, they don't have the political pressures that our president has to deal with.
Right.
It is one of those things where they there's that kind of standard trope of the Middle East and the Chinese think things in much longer terms, right? They don't think of it in 2 to 4 year cycles like our political environment
like
does.
Centuries in advance.
Exactly, at the very least a decade. And I think they can hold out longer than us. The question, I mean, at some level, this is a beneficial relationship between us. Both countries do benefit at some level, in certain areas at least, from this relationship. I would much rather be in business with a country like India.
Me too.
When like if we can get
somebody friendly towards
us to make our stuff.
Yeah,
nice. Some of it doesn't make sense. I think everybody acknowledges not everything needs to be made in the United States. We don't need to be North Korea. North Korea has everything, mostly at least insular and made within their country. You'd be surprised to hear that it's not going well. Look at the map.
Surprised.
Have you ever seen the overhead picture from the satellites where North Korea and South Korea? That's what happens when you have absolutely no relationships outside the country. That's not to say that everything needs to be moved here. That's not what Trump is even arguing. But it is a situation where if we have the tariffs at this level are essentially an embargo, right? Like we're just not going to have any relationship at all. Like I was listening to some guy who runs a shoe company, and I guess they do their manufacturing in China, and they charge I think $175 for their high end shoes or whatever they are, and with the tariffs, they're now going to be like $350 of tariffs on each pair of shoes.
Wow.
Because I think he said the percentage was 175% or something like that. Because it is different.
Shoes.
Everyone's saying it's 145. It's different in all different areas. Squid is super high. If you're importing your squid from China, oh my gosh, the squid prices, Pat. I don't know if you've been.
We don't have any squid in our cookies, so I don't.
Kexi doesn't have a squid cookie.
Not a single squid cookie. So
well, that's okay then. You'll be okay.
What a relief.
But all your competitors, which by the way, I don't know if people know this, all other cookie companies. Most of it is squid.
Yeah.
Most of the recipe, the batter is made of squished up squid.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm not positive on that,
I'm not going to name
but
the companies for legal reasons, but like most of them just import Chinese squid
and put them
from the shores of Wuhan.
Right directly into their cookies.
Even though there's not really shores. And they put them directly into the cookies. That's why I prefer Kexi.
Thank you.
Myself,
yes.
Pat. I don't know. I just don't want to eat squid
completely squid free.
Yeah. Wow, really?
All of it. Yeah, every cookie squid free.
That's quite a statement. I hope
that's a promise that I can solidly make right now.
You cleared that with legal?
I did.
Okay, good.
I did.
Because but if you're going with the other cookie guys, wow, your price is going to go through the roof.
Yep.
It's Wuhan squid all day long.
There was more discussion about tariffs with between President Trump and Kristen Welker on Meet the Press yesterday. Here's how that went.
Sir, you acknowledge when you announced your tariffs, for example, the stock market dropped. It's been volatile. It has since gone up.
It is,
do you take responsibility for that? Yeah. Do you take responsibility when it drops?
Ultimately, I take responsibility for everything, but I've only just been here for a little more than 3 months. But the stock market, look at what's happened in the last short period of time. Didn't it have 9 or 10 days in a row or 11 days where it's gone up? And the tariffs have just started kicking in. And we're doing really well psychologically. I mean, the fake news was giving me such press on the tariffs. The tariffs are going to make us rich. We're going to be a very rich country.
Okay. All right. I like it. And yes, the stock market's been up 9 straight days, I believe, right? Isn't that, I don't know where the futures market is headed right now, but it was up for 9 straight days. And it's nearly made up for the losses that it had from the beginning. So
for when are we measuring this from? From
the beginning of the losses?
So the beginning of the losses, I would not say that's accurate.
We haven't.
So if you go, I guess if you go to the, I'm just looking at the chart here as we're speaking. I was on vacation last week, so I did not follow the markets at all. Do people do that? Do people follow the markets when they're on vacation? I don't know.
I do not.
I try not to.
I do not.
But I guess if you're kind of going from April 1st which was he put them on April 2nd, right? They went into effect on April 2nd.
Yeah.
Which would not hold some of the previous losses into, wouldn't count those. But if you kind of just take it from that day, it was at 42,000, and we're back to like 41,000.
So it's close.
Yeah, it's
pretty close.
It was as low as 38.
Okay.
Right around 38.
But it was as high as what, 45 at one point?
Yeah, it was
earlier
as high
in the year?
as 45.
So yeah, we're a little off of that, Mark.
Sure. I mean, we're well off of the highs, but from when these things kicked in, they've regained most of their losses, which is great.
That is great. And hopefully that will continue.
I think it's a fair thing. When the markets were down, Trump was saying, "Oh, you can't just look at the markets," which I think is fair. It's
absolutely.
It is it's a long-term projection of where the economy is going, not necessarily what's important on a day-to-day, right?
Yes.
You have to look at those things in longer-term, I think, chunks.
And we all knew that. Okay, initially there's going to be some pain. Some prices are going to go up on some things. Until we reach some deals and things kind of even out. So, yeah, initially there's going to be some problems. There's going to be a little volatility in the market, and prices are going to go up. And the thing now is that he just said over the weekend that instead of getting $30 for your kids for Christmas, you might get 2 or 3, meaning that the toy manufacturing that is done in China is going to slow down for us. So if you're looking for Christmas gifts, now might be a good time to get them.
Yeah, we haven't seen any of the price increases yet.
No.
Right? I mean,
I don't think so.
Largely, and we saw this in the economic report that came out, with the GDP being down, it was part of that was a lot of people importing goods in advance of the tariffs, right? So people loaded up. Like I've talked to a couple of business owners who are like, we just loaded up on stock, so we just filled our warehouse with stuff pre-tariff, which will last us a couple of months before these prices start going up, and then they're going to have to start dealing with it. Those are all. It's going to be fun. It's going to be an interesting time.
It's going to be fun.
Interesting time.
That's a good way to look at it. It's going to be fun. It's an adventure.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel like
adventure.
Glenn turned me onto that approach a couple years ago, and it works for me every time.
Yeah.
If you kind of think of life as a movie, it's going to be an interesting movie.
He keeps going on these shows. At least they can't say he's ducking them, because he's not.
No, he loves this stuff.
He does love it.
He loves defeating these people.
Yes, he does.
It's like, I feel like with him, it's like he has his job. And then I think we all have like things that we do on the side for fun. This is what he does on the side for fun. This is like
I think that's accurate.
He just likes it.
He does.
Yeah, he likes torturing these people.
And he does it well.
He does do it well. He does.
He was asked about the possibility of a recession. Here's what he had to say about that.
Some people on Wall Street have expressed concerns that the possibility of a recession is increasing. And I want to know what you think about that. Are you comfortable with the country potentially dipping into a recession for a period of time if you are able to achieve your long-term goals?
Well, you say some people on Wall Street say, well, I tell you something else. Some people on Wall Street say that we're going to have the greatest economy in history. Great. Why don't you talk about them? Because some people on Wall Street say this is the greatest.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at, though. It's the same question.
Yeah, there are many people on Wall Street say this is going to be the greatest windfall ever happen.
Love that. Because she doesn't ask it that way, because that wouldn't be a negative spin on it.
Right.
So, of course, she could talk about the negative Wall Street people who say that we could go into a recession or a depression. That's what she wants to hear about. It's agonizing every time. But he turns it around nicely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, I don't know that, When he got in trouble for saying back in the day, like, oh, well, they're not sending us our best across the border. If you remember that controversy, I think the same thing is applying to the media these days. I mean, this can't be their best, right? Like this is
no, this is what they keep throwing at him.
Yeah, apparently. But he really, I think, does just relish these moments.
No, I think you're right.
It's like a nice distraction from which I would assume is a very difficult job of being actually president of the United States. And this is part of the gig, but it's the fun part of the gig.
For him, it is.
Yeah, he likes it.
A lot don't like it.
No.
A lot of people would not enjoy this particular aspect of it.
I think it's smart for him to
Biden
do
never
this.
wanted to be challenged, that's for sure.
No. And Trump didn't do an awful lot of this during the campaign, interestingly. They sent J.D. Vance out to do most of these interviews, and Trump did a lot of the podcast stuff, if you remember, during the campaign, which was also a very workable strategy. It worked really well. I mean, J.D. Vance was really good in these moments. And Trump was, I think, really likable in the podcast. So they could go back to that whenever they feel like it. But I mean, he wants to dip his toes into. I think this is just this is the stuff that I think he loves. He loves this sort of jousting.